Honda's 2026 power unit just triggered an FIA investigation, and it's not because of the engine, it's because of what's hiding inside the battery. Why would a legal energy system need a secret override function that no rival team knows about? This leaked document exposes the exact mechanism Aston Martin could be using to gain illegal straight-line performance and how the FIA missed it for months. And here's the twist: if this system is real, it could destroy Honda's comeback and force Aston Martin to redesign their entire 2026 car from scratch. The entire Formula One paddock was blindsided when the FIA launched a formal investigation into Honda's 2026 power unit project. Not because the engine was pushing too much power, or because the emissions were out of spec, but because the data logs didn't match the lap times. At first, the difference seemed small. Aston Martin's straight-line performance simulations were just a few tenths quicker than expected. But when engineers cross-referenced acceleration deltas against energy deployment reports, the numbers didn't line up. And that's when the red flags appeared. According to leaked documents, the issue wasn't in the combustion unit, it was in the energy store. A battery system designed with something unprecedented, a concealed override mode. The override system, codenamed Phoenix Mode, internally is suspected to temporarily bypass FIA-mandated power delivery caps under certain conditions. Not by adding power directly, but by redirecting energy flows within the MGUK and MGUH systems in a way that doesn't trip the standard sensors. In theory, this could provide a 0.2 to 0.4 second advantage per lap on high-speed circuits, particularly in sectors where DRS can't be used. The brilliance and danger of the system is that it operates within the technical wording of the regulations, but not the intent. That subtle difference is what's now triggering a crisis inside the FIA's Power Unit Compliance Division. What makes this scandal even more volatile is Adrian Newey's suspected involvement in shaping the powertrain's architecture. Sources close to the team confirm that Newey requested specific packaging constraints and center of gravity parameters that forced Honda to design a non-traditional battery layout. That layout stacked vertically along the crash structure allows for rapid thermal recovery and burst discharge, but also opens the door for manipulation of cooling flow and discharge windows. In other words, the power unit wasn't just designed for performance, it was built to outsmart the regulatory framework. Whether Newey knew about Phoenix Mode directly is still unclear. But the layout enables it. And that's enough to put the entire program under suspicion. Inside Aston Martin, panic has reportedly set in. If the FIA rules that Honda's energy deployment system violates the spirit or letter of the 2026 technical code, the consequences could be catastrophic. The engine could be banned from race usage before homologation. The car's chassis, which was designed around this power unit's unique dimensions and cooling demands, would become obsolete. And worst of all, Aston Martin would have no legal power unit to race with. That would be a disaster, not just technically, but politically. This was supposed to be Honda's triumphant return to Formula One as a full works partner. Instead, it risks becoming the most high-profile failure in their motorsport history. Adding fuel to the fire is the growing tension between Aston Martin's leadership and the FIA itself. Privately, team representatives believe they're being targeted because of their rapid ascent and Newey's presence. But regulators are pushing back, saying that any manipulation of power delivery, no matter how cleverly hidden, violates the foundation of the sport's cost cap and energy equity principles. If Honda's system is ruled legal, it could trigger a copycat arms race, forcing every manufacturer to redesign their energy deployment software to remain competitive. That, in turn, would explode development costs and destabilize the very regulations the FIA spent years crafting. And here's the kicker: some insiders suggest that rival teams may have known about this for months and chose to stay silent until the timing was right. If true, that would make this not just a technical scandal, but a strategic ambush. Red Bull, Mercedes, and Ferrari all have access to high-resolution GPS and sector telemetry. They may have seen Aston Martin's acceleration patterns and flagged them as suspicious. By allowing the system to mature before leaking the story, they've now cornered both Honda and Aston Martin with maximum PR damage and minimum recourse. It's a ruthless play, but in Formula One, it's exactly what you'd expect when power and politics collide. So now, everything hangs in the balance. The FIA is combing through data. Honda is preparing a legal defense. Aston Martin is scrambling for contingency plans. And every team on the grid is watching, because what happens next will define the competitive landscape of the 2026 season. Is this override system a stroke of genius within the rules? Or is it a clear violation that could cost Honda its comeback and leave Aston Martin without an engine? One thing is certain: if the FIA delivers a penalty, it will be the most consequential technical ruling in over a decade. Inside Aston Martin Silverstone headquarters, what was once excitement for a new era has rapidly turned into controlled chaos. The 2026 car, which was being developed around the unique characteristics of the Honda power unit, is now sitting in a precarious position. Every airflow simulation, every cooling channel, and every weight distribution assumption is based on a system that might be declared illegal. Engineers are quietly preparing dual development paths, one with the current Honda concept, and one in case they have to revert to a more conventional layout. That split focus is already slowing down progress. And in a sport where milliseconds equal millions, any delay now could derail their entire 2026 title plan before it even begins. The biggest technical complication lies in the battery's thermal management system. According to sources close to the program, the override mode isn't just a software switch, it's hardwired into the energy redistribution logic through a heat-based trigger sequence. That means if the FIA bans the override, it's not just a matter of turning it off. The whole layout has to be restructured. Cooling ducts, cell stacking, and exhaust flow paths all would require redesign. And that would effectively mean starting from scratch. The sheer cost, in both time and budget under the cost cap, could wipe out any advantage the team hoped to gain from its early NUI-led integration work. As this technical firestorm unfolds, the political dimensions are escalating fast. Honda has remained publicly silent, but internally, their Tokyo-based leadership is said to be furious. This was supposed to be their clean, honorable return to Formula One, a redemption arc after their rocky exit from Red Bull. Now they're facing accusations of trickery. It's not just embarrassing, it threatens their brand integrity. If the FIA rules against them, they face the possibility of having to rebuild the entire ERS logic in just a few months. Worse still, if Aston Martin blames Honda publicly to deflect pressure, it could rupture the partnership entirely. Lawrence Stroll is in an impossible position. He's bet everything on this Honda NUI combination, a new factory, a $200 million investment into infrastructure, and a complete rebranding of Aston Martin's Formula One identity. If the engine is pulled, that entire narrative collapses. Sponsors will lose confidence. NUI's trust could evaporate. And rival teams will circle like sharks. The pressure on Stroll to manage this crisis without triggering panic is enormous. Every call he makes over the next 2 months will define the future of his team. Does he back Honda completely and risk regulatory fallout? Or does he begin speaking to alternative power unit suppliers behind the scenes? Meanwhile, the other teams are not waiting. Mercedes is reportedly lobbying for an immediate clarification from the FIA about the legal status of battery-based power overrides. Ferrari is said to be pushing for retrospective telemetry reviews across the last 12 months of simulation testing. And Red Bull, ironically, once a Honda partner, is rumored to be collecting their own evidence in case this turns into a legal battle. The FIA, for its part, is now caught between two fires. If they rule against Honda too aggressively, they risk alienating a returning manufacturer. But if they go soft, they'll open the floodgates for an arms race in battery override systems. Either way, the integrity of the 2026 regulation cycle hangs in the balance. And here's where things get even more dangerous. Adrian Newey's contract reportedly contains performance clauses tied to the first 2 years of the 2026 project. If the power unit is declared non-compliant and Aston Martin's competitiveness is compromised, Newey could walk. That's not speculation, that's leverage. Newey has never tolerated technical or political instability. If he sees this investigation dragging down development timelines or creating regulatory ambiguity, he may not wait around. And losing him would be a double blow. Not only would Aston Martin lose their star architect, but rival teams, particularly Ferrari, would likely come calling with open contracts. All of this now leaves Aston Martin at a crossroads. They can't back down without looking guilty. They can't go forward without risk. And they can't pivot without blowing up the entire car. The Honda engine was supposed to be their golden weapon, the secret edge that would finally close the gap to Red Bull and Mercedes. Now, it may become the very thing that breaks their momentum. And the worst part? The investigation has only just begun. More data will surface. More emails will leak. More rivals will push. And the question hanging over everyone's head remains unanswered. Did Aston Martin and Honda build a power unit so clever, it broke the rules without leaving a fingerprint?